Making solid games isn't enough when you have gamers expecting extraordinary experiences. Ubisoft CEO says after Star Wars Outlaws. Okay, so we already know who the Ubisoft CEO is, and that's Gilmo, right? This guy is an absolute asshat. I'm sorry. I don't think there's a better word for it. You're talking about a guy that just constantly has asinine quotes, right? Yeah, Pinky, I know. How dare us, right? But expect fun gameplay? Jesus Christ. Shame on us as consumers, you know? God dang. Gilmo is ridiculous. Yeah, that's what I was getting ready to bring up, Ferret. Yeah, so if you guys don't know who Gilmo is, this guy is constantly just... I literally don't think he knows anything about video games. I think he just rides around in like a golden flipping Bentley or something, and you know what I mean? He's just some rich dude that doesn't really know video games. I truly think that. It's, not, I think, too far removed from a lot of the executives in the industry anymore. Take Herman Hulsch, for example, thinking that Concord was going to be the next flipping Star Wars, or, who was the recent other guy I called out from Respawn's head. I can't remember his name right now. The Respawn co-creator and flipping CEO trying to act like PlayStation 5 Pro was a way better deal than any kind of PC experience. Like, give me a break, dude. Where are you guys coming from? It's so crazy. This is the individual like Ferret just brought up, right? Gilmo is the one that tried to justify and condone a AAA price tag on a live service game being Skull and Bones, which we all knew was going to be mediocre at best after a 8-9 year development period with 8 to 9 delays as well, right? And he called it he defended the AAA price tag, $70 price tag of a live service game, saying it was a quadruple A game. I mean, if that doesn't tell you everything you need to know about this guy, I don't know what does. But we'll read this and keep talking about his ridiculousness, I guess. Good ain't good enough, he says. As Ubisoft works to turn things around after a few bad years, CEO Gilmo reckons making good, solid games won't cut it. That's not necessarily true. On the heels of the Assassin's Creed Shadows delay, which has made Ubisoft's 24... And I'll talk about this, okay? I'll talk about this. On the heels of the Assassin's Creed Shadows delay, which we were, again, made aware of by Ferret, thank you, buddy, yesterday. Bear in mind, this past February, Gilmo described Assassin's Creed Mirage as a turning point for the studio's output as it works to regularly put out good games again, in his words. The beginning, because he knows what good games are. The beginning of our turnaround, this is a quote, the beginning of our turnaround to consistently create and deliver high-quality, long-lasting games. Speaking on an investor conference call today, Gilmo reckoned that good just ain't good enough in today's challenging market, and with gamers expecting extraordinary experiences, delivering solid quality is no longer enough, the CEO said. We must strive for excellence in all aspects of our work. This will enable the biggest entry in the Assassin's Creed franchise to fully deliver on its ambition, notably by fulfilling the promise of our dual protagonist adventure with Naoi and Yasuki, bringing two very different gameplay styles. This stance, which warrants the immediate counterpoint that perhaps this might only not be enough for AAA projects that guzzle money like a Humvee guzzles gas, follows positive but not ravenous reception for Star Wars Outlaws, which Ubisoft clocks at a Metacritic score of, like we just talked about, 76. Sales aren't exactly great, so Ubisoft's open-world Star Wars game is now coming to Steam in November with its first DLC in tow, and the devs promise multiple free updates to come afterwards. Assassin's Creed Shadows was also specifically delayed based on learnings from the Star Wars Outlaws release regarding polish. Games Radar Star Wars Outlaws review praises its world building and combat, but like many others, docks points for mission variety and bad stealth sections. Again, everything I read about Star Wars Outlaws was that it was a decent experience, but it wasn't anything that you haven't experienced before, you know. So I think that to an extent, are gamers getting to a point where if you are a major quadruple A developer, right, Gilmo, and you're going to be doing things like condoning a AAA price point on a live service game, then people are going to be expecting a certain level of content out of you, yeah? And then when something comes out like this, after what you did with something like Skull and Bones, you want to come out and act like people, you know, nothing you can do is good enough. That's basically what he's saying, right? Nothing they can do is good enough for us gamers, yeah? But, I mean, you can't have it both ways, dude. You know what I mean? You can't have it both ways, and I don't think any of us expect any company to be flawless in what they provide to us content-wise. But there's a big but here. Big old but. Yeah? There's a a situation I think going on in the industry right now where I think a lot of consumers are getting smarter. I always promote this. I promote a more, dedicated look at how we're spending our money and what are we getting for that money. And I think it's an appropriate way for us to approach the industry as a whole because ultimately we've been taken advantage of for a very long time. And it can be anything across the spectrum of games that come out that shouldn't come out when they get released because they're not ready yet, which means that we are buying into a product that is unfinished, broken, and ultimately we shouldn't have ever even had access to buy yet, which leads to obviously delays in games like we're seeing with this is warranted, and we need to approach that with respect and understanding to an extent. Skull and Bones situation's a little bit different, right? That's the other side of that. But whether it be across games unfinished, content promises that get to us unfulfilled, great example is something like Hello Games and No Man's Sky on release, all the way through just there are all kinds of things across the spectrum of where we've felt jaded, cheated, mistreated as consumers of products. And, I think it's appropriate for people to be more diligent in the way that we approach these products in the market anymore. Because it's a matter of how good does it perform, how good is the content, how much are we getting for our money as well. I think that people are becoming more concerned with all of those across the board, which makes sense. I brought up Respawn just a little bit ago. You want to talk about some terrible performing games out the gate. Their Jedi games I think are supposed to be very, very good content wise, but it's taken them like a year to a year and a half on both of those titles to get them in a fairly solid performing state after release. That's unacceptable. It shouldn't happen like that, right? So are they going to blame us for not necessarily looking to buy into their experiences anymore after we've been bit before? And you're going, oh, well, this game's not doing as good as we think it should, Well, who's to blame for that, right? I think that the thing that I stick to a lot, and I say a lot, is I think that most of us, and if you're not of this mindset, I think that you should be this way as a consumer of video games. If you don't look at the way you approach purchasing in a fashion of, do I know this developer? Do I trust this developer? And if so, I'm willing to support them in what they do as a on-release kind of situation, as opposed to I don't trust this developer, I don't trust this publisher, so I'll just wait and see what other people are saying about the title before I decide to put money into it. That's the way I really think that everything has to be approached nowadays, and I think it's starting to show to an extent in the industry, as opposed to people just going, oh, it's Call of Duty, it's Call of Duty, it's Call of Duty, it's Call of Duty, I'm going to buy it. And there's still a good amount of that, right? Let's not get it twisted. There's still a lot of games that have a very notoriously just ridiculous amount of people that buy into them year on end just because of the name that's behind them. And, you know, there's still an amount of that happens. But I think it's starting to dwindle to an extent, right? And so you get people at the top trying to act like nothing's good enough for us, right? It's almost like we're getting, you know, a bunch of, it's like gaslighting us, you know. It's like gaslighting us because the things that they make just aren't good enough for us, you know. And it's like, well, I mean, look at your history here, Ubisoft, you know what I mean? Do you expect everybody just to be buying everything you make? You shouldn't, because, you know, it's so hard to tell whether or not you're going to have anything that's worth a crap or not, you know? So, I mean, you know, it just seems so ridiculous for them to, you know, and again, this is the executive, the boss, the owner, the CEO of this company saying this kind of crap. Yeah? We get ridiculous quotes out of this individual at the top of this company all the time. And if, you know, that in and of itself is something that honestly makes me very, very hesitant to ever play Ubisoft games. You have a figure like this at the top of a company that is supposed to be making us great, immersive video gaming experiences, and they're just always making an ass of themselves. Sorry. I mean, it doesn't make me super confident in wanting to be a part of supporting your company.